Congratulations. Hold the Fort had its premiere yesterday at Fantasia. How did the screening go?
It went fantastic. It was amazing. It went Fantasia, actually. No, it was a blast. We had a great audience. The jokes hit when they were supposed to. The emotional moments felt like they were landing. People seemed to eat it up.
Yeah,
we had fun.
Sold out screening. It was great.
From the first meow, we knew we were in the right place.
Speaking of, yeah.
Exactly. I said one of them would turn up. I guess the obvious first question is, where did the idea for this film begin?
It's a couple of different things. So I grew up in an HOA neighborhood. So when my buddy Scott Hawkins came and pitched me the idea of an HOA fighting monsters, I kind of just really attached to that idea, and was able to meld some characters based off of people who I'd interacted with HOA stuff before. My wife and I had also just moved to the suburbs. And I remember when we moved, I was kind of struggling with leaving the city and being like, what are we doing? We're moving to the suburbs. I'm not ready for this sort of thing yet. So just through that, and then the fact that monsters and fun stuff like that's hilarious. That's just kind of what happened. And now we're here. We made a freaking movie.
I mean, you say monsters, I think when, you say monsters, people think of the obvious, like, witches and werewolves and things, which are part of the film. But this film also has some quite wacky out there sort of monsters. How did you kind of go about, developing them? Because it kind of feels that, it's just that you were all kind of sat in a room and was like, how about, like zombies,
The
but
mind of William Bagley. Okay, so the Kung Fu Spirits was actually in my mind. That came because it was a budgetary thing. I was like, I need a monster that we can do, but we can do it cheaper. And so I'm like, well, zombies are kind of whatever, but zombies who know Kung Fu are kind of sweet. And so that was the thing. And then there was also in the original script, it was supposed to be ninjas with ray guns, with pink little ray guns at the very end. But because that felt a little too silly, it became kamikaze bats, and they blow up pink.
Which is way more serious.
But yeah, no, just having fun, trying to come up with cool, fun things that made me giggle.
It must be, it must be fun for you guys as actors as well, because, a lot of, acting is basically, playing pretend and kind of going back to, when you're kids and, you're playing with your imagination. So it must be quite fun to do a film like this and just get to kind of embrace that inner child again.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things I love about acting is that, as sort of the art form of acting in its sort of objective sense is like kind of embarrassing because I'm playing pretend, and I'm wearing clothes that aren't mine and saying words that aren't mine in front of like a huge room of people, which like in any other context you'd be like mortified. And so it's super fun. Like I think there's something really valuable about being in touch with your inner child as an actor, no matter what the role is, because you're getting a chance to play, because you're getting in touch with like, as an actor, this idea of like, what are my impulses as an actor? Not to get too much into theory, but like, what is it that this character wants, and deep down, how are they going after that with everything they have? Because that's how kids act, right? When you're a kid, you like, oh, I want that cookie, and I'm going to do everything I can to get that cookie, right? But then as an adult, we have to put on masks a lot as adults in public society, in polite public society. We have to hide a lot of things. And so as an actor, to have this opportunity to let those impulses fly, right? Because the stakes are so high, because if I don't act and I don't do something to the fullest extent, I'm gonna die. It's like so fun to really embrace that as an actor.
And for me, you're doing more than just getting to play pretend. It's the art of storytelling. Yeah. And so, we're bringing characters to life through the process of telling a story. So we've got great writing, a great script, and great scene partners. It makes it all just a wonderful experience for us. And this movie was so much fun making that we really were anxious to see last night exactly how much of that fun would translate from the screen to the audience. And it really seemed to work.
It was like 1-to-1. It was amazing to watch.
And I know that, I think, William, Levi, and Chris, you've all worked together in the past. Does that pre-existing relationship then help when you are doing something like this, where it is a little wacky and a little silly, so that you don't have that kind of, I guess, maybe that so that maybe like self.
Well, so honestly, when I was writing the script, I wrote it for these two guys. Like, I was thinking about both of them when I was writing and creating the characters, and knowing that they could pull this stuff off and make these characters feel legit. And both of them did so good that certain things hit harder than I'd even planned because they're too good. But no, I mean, yeah, working with y'all, it's incredible. And
I think with any creative endeavor requires a certain amount of trust, and I think when having worked with William before, some of that trust was already built in, and then it obviously grew even more as we shot this thing. And so to know that, like, on the page, and there's parts of this film that are very silly and very fun, right? But on the page, to be like, okay, I can trust this filmmaker to elevate this script and elevate these performances and elevate everything that this creative team is bringing to it, so that it's more than just being silly and slapstick on screen. So having that trust in William, I mean, that's what sold me on this project to begin with, was knowing I knew, having worked with him, I knew that William could make a great film, and I was just looking forward to work with him again.
Yeah, and for me, a lot of acting is kind of playing up your scene partner. And when you know and you have trust in your fellow actor to know that he's doing the same thing, you just feel like the whole thing is the real Meisner pinch and ouch kind of of an experience. And it was like that on this.
Yeah.
And horror films inevitably have blood, and somebody ends up covered in it at some point. But Chris, like, you spend basically like 70% of the film with just fake blood all over your face. I mean, what was that experience like? Because a lot of the time it's kind of, it's in the climax, maybe for like a day or so, but this must have been sort of like day in, day out. You're just getting caked in the red stuff.
Every day.
Well, being covered in blood became 70% of my personality as well. So
he would clean off at the end of the day, and I'd be like, "Oh, your face looks weird."
I know. They're like, "Oh, I see your chin." No, honestly, it was really fun. I think there's something to be said for, like, hey, every day I show up and the first thing that happens is I get covered in blood, and it's like, oh, I am now in character. You know what I mean? It didn't require a lot of like effort to be like, all right, where's Lucas at today? It's like, oh yeah, someone just died and exploded on him. But we had like an incredible special effects team with Shane Morton and Sarah Martin, thank you.
We had 4 stages of blood too. They come out, they were like, "Is Lucas in 3?
Yeah.
Stage 3 or stage 4?" And I'm like, "It's 3. He'll be 4 tomorrow, and he's back to 3."
Yeah, but that incredible special effects team. And
so can I speak a little about Shane Morton?
Please, yeah.
So Shane is a legend. He's in the industry. Shane made the Cheddar Goblin for Mandy. Shane did all of Your Pretty Faces Going to Hell, 6 seasons of that, 5 seasons of that, and just so much stuff. And he's just he's one of those guys where it's like, if you can magnetize a project to bring Shane on, it's going to elevate it so much. And I think a lot of people would look at your script and be like, we can't do this. But Shane looks at it and goes, hell yeah. And that's the kind of like infectious energy that we had to bring to all of it. But I just think we're all so lucky to have worked with Shane, because he really, really brought this up to the next level, because all the monsters look good. All the blood looks fucking great. And the team he's able to bring on and get involved around that, like Renee Arriagada, the prop guy from The Walking Dead for 9 seasons, did our all of our like explosions and pyro stuff, and it was an incredible like kind of magnetized project where we got all these things, and we didn't have money to do it, but we did have like gusto.
Yeah, we had a bunch of really excited, passionate people, and everyone's like, let's do it.
Yeah.
It's like, I've done a lot of improv over the years, and there's something about having a sort of yes and spirit to it that I really love. Like Shane Morton would like look at what was on the page and be like, all right, that's cool, but what if we did this? And you're like, hell yeah, dude. Or like
sometimes you're like, no.
You're like, no.
Yeah.
Or there's the one scene when Jerry, the HOA president, gets thrown, and then his body crashes onto this table, and like it's this like, how heavy was that dummy?
It's like 75.
It's like 75-pound dummy, and it's a very funny scene. And we were trying to figure out how do we get that shot, and then the stunt guys were like, hey, what if we just climbed into the rafters and threw it on the ground? And they were like,
and it worked.
Hell yeah, man, it worked great.
All we have to do is make them clear framed at the top of it, and we can just drop it and smash cut it together.
And just and having this passionate team who's like, okay, but what about this? It's just like,
so when Shane says that's great, but Anne, instead of 1 gallon of blood, let's bring in 100 gallons of blood, and let's throw it on Lucas all through the movie. So it's a drinking game is now every time Lucas gets splashed with blood, you got to take a drink. he was cleaning blood from his ears for weeks after filming.
That's true. That is true.
And I guess obviously that should, it's Hold the Fort has screened at Fantasia. It's coming to my neck of the woods next, at FrightFest in London in the UK. So I'm guessing, that's the drinking game that the audience can play. Each time, Lucas gets a bit more blood on him, everybody has a drink, right?
Yes.
There you go.
Let's definitely do that. I'll be there, so I'll start.
Well, grab a pint.
Nice. So thank you guys so much for your time. And yeah, if any of you are around at FrightFest, I'll see you there.
We'll see you there.
Thanks, Kat. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kat.